All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Today's Weather Tonight. Here, as always, I'm your comedian / meteorologist for the evening, Cloud Hudson, and I am going to be bringing you all of tonight's top weather stories. Let's start out by looking at the same page. Okay, there we go. Let's take a look at some of the top stories tonight. Red flag warnings are set to take effect throughout Southern California beginning Monday. So Southern California, a few weeks ago, had been getting drenched by an atmospheric river. Mid to Northern California had been getting drenched by the atmospheric river. The Southern California hasn't seen significant rainfall in quite some time. That also is combined with strong, dry winds and warm temperatures with low humidity. This is the peak time for the Santa Ana winds, so named for the region. It's something that just regularly happens in the Santa Ana area in the hills of Southern California. There was a powerful fire last month driven by these winds that began on November 6th and charred nearly 20,000 acres. I haven't looked at a wildfire map in a while. Where's drought monitor? I haven't looked at in a minute either. They're not in a drought in that area, but red flag warning is still no bueno. Actually, let's see if fire weather is on here. Yeah. I don't even hide my location on here anymore because, spoiler alert, I live in Asheville. It's pretty clear. Fire weather warning surrounding everywhere that isn't right here between Long Beach and downtown LA. There are active wildfires that are 98% contained and 99% contained. Remember earlier in the year, I was doing a lot of fire reporting. I haven't done a wildfire roundup since I got back to broadcasting recently, but most of these wildfires are pretty well contained. Not even looking at too many in Canada, which is good, other than right up there. Most of them are here in the western mountain states. This is the only region where we've got red flag warnings, though. So another, this is very loosely related to the weather, but the mother of all bubbles is in the U.S. is sucking money away from the rest of the world, market experts say. So some market experts are saying that U.S. companies and stocks have been overvalued. What did they say? Specifically, there's a quote in here. Overvalued. Oh, where'd the quote go? Overvalued. Overperforming. It's like I can't read while I'm broadcasting. Okay, there we go. Thoroughly dominating the mind space of global investors, America is overowned, overvalued, and overhyped to a degree never seen before. So this could potentially lead to a bubble where when everyone loses their illusions about how well America can perform, people will start immediately dumping all their shares and pulling out of their investments in American companies. I think this is a great metaphor right here, the bubble. It can only be a pretty bubble for so long until it ceases to exist and we realize that the bubble was not something you should build your house on. You should not build your house on American investments, because eventually people are going to realize what the American people are waking up to realizing, which is that the current state of our country is not something you should be able to count on. Don't bank on it. Investors hate her. One simple trick to get economists hating you. Me, just telling people don't invest in US. One weird trick to crash the stock market. Use your alternative weather podcast to devalue American stocks. Let's see. Let's go ahead and talk about more of a stable foundation than the American economy. The tectonic plates. 4.5 and a 4.2 over here in the, okay, this is in Western China, the 4.5 at 10 kilometers depth, and the 4.2 was in the Afghanistan-Tajikistan border region. That was at 191 kilometers depth, a pretty deep one. We got some more deep ones out here in the Philippines and Indonesia, a 4.9 at 522 kilometers depth, a 4.9 at 10 kilometers depth, and a 4.2 at 227 kilometers depth. Then out here in the Fiji Islands region, we had a 4.4 at 589 kilometers depth. So that's either way in the earth or way out of the earth. Now, what I mentioned in the title of this video, 6.0s and up have been spreading. First, we had this 6.0 at 207 kilometers depth out on the Kuril Islands area, south of the Kamchatka Peninsula. And then here right in the middle of the Aleutian Island chain in the Aleutian Trench, we had, let's see how many. Wow, look at how many over 5.0 earthquakes we had right here. This is a lot. This is a lot. Yeah, over 5. And then over 6, we had 3 6 and overs, a 6.1, a 6.3, and another 6.3. Let's see, 738, 257. Okay, so the first we had one 6.3, and then about 5 hours later we had the 6.1, shortly followed by the 6.3. That is all while there were all these 5s going on right in the same area. Let's take a look at the location. Is there an island name this is near? Adak, very close to Adak Airport. So this is not just any island chain, island in the chain. This is like the very tippy top end of Alaska. The island where Mount Reed is, where the Adak Airport is, and where Adak is. Let's see. The Aleutian Islands Wilderness, Kagalaska, the Alaska Maritime National Wildlife Refuge. These are some areas these are some locations that would have felt the quaking here. Let's see, what other, I think these are all Aleutian Islands Wilderness. Kanaga Island, the Canatone Ridge. Yeah, these are all wildlife refuges out here, just really in the middle of nowhere, but in the middle of the Aleutian Island chain. It's kind of the biggest island chain island in the middle of the chain. So we're pretty close to, I mean, this happened close to significant civilization, as close to significant civilization as you can get out there. Let's see. And no tsunami threat with this. Little area affected. T-axis was really heavily represented here, as well as the P, and the N-axis was very little. Yeah. So the tensor moment was really high. Okay. Elsewhere in Alaska, more on the mainland of Alaska, we had some surface quakes like these 2.6 and 1.4, as well as our regular cast of characters of some mildly deep ones at like around 100 kilometers depth. I'll have 117, 111 kilometers depth. A 2.0 right here on the really close to the Canadian border. Then we go back to California, and wouldn't you know it, we had a surface 4.3. This was a surface 4.3 was right at the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. I believe this is right off the coast of Northern California. That is where we had the 7.0 a few days ago. And as I add back in that was the biggest magnitude one. As I add back in our other magnitude quakes near there, we had some upper level 3s happen right along that fault line. If you notice right there, those are both on those two locations of where the other 3s are also on that fracture zone. And then as we add in our other quakes, we see some other locations represented, including the area where the geysers is, whatever. The geysers, California is the name of the area. Also had a little bit of activity up in Washington, Utah, and Southern California with the lower level quakes as well. A 2.5 happened here in Wyoming at 3 kilometers depth, just like in the middle of Yellowstone, I believe. Yeah, West Yellowstone, Montana. Oh, wait, it says, okay, it's in Wyoming, but it says 61 kilometers southeast of West Yellowstone, Montana. I don't know why they're not counting that as in. I have no idea what USGS bases their locations near on, because it seems to me that they should be saying this was just feet away from Yellowstone Lake, because it was just feet away from Yellowstone Lake. But for some reason, they're calling it miles away from Montana for some reason. Another place that they do that is this area in West Texas always gets reported as south of Whitesides, New Mexico, when it's clearly in the Texas Panhandle. There was a 3 in Texas at 7 kilometers depth. That was over here where we also usually see a lot of quakes, but not usually in that magnitude. It's near Midland, Texas, and Stanton, Texas. Okay. Next areas were, a 2.1 up here on the border of Maine and Vermont. Or New Hampshire, I'm sorry. Maine and New Hampshire. I always get those two confused. Vermont is the one with a V. New Hampshire is the one with an N. Okay. Right on the border near Upton, Maine. That's interesting. 2.1 at 9 kilometers depth. Then we had a higher level 5, a 5.6 at 15 kilometers depth in Central America, near Conchagua, El Salvador. So that is right on the coastline. Like the epicenter is just on shore of the coast in looks like a wildlife preserve area as well in El Salvador. And that would have been felt throughout pretty much all of El Salvador and into northern coastal Nicaragua. Some areas of mountainous Honduras also felt this. Let's see. Then there's always quakes over here in Puerto Rico, as well as the Barrier Islands. There's a 4.0 at 83 kilometers depth. It's kind of like northeast of Antigua and Barbuda. Let's see. In St. John. It's not near an island too much, but the 3.4 here was pretty, well, not even close to Puerto Rico. We had a 2.3 and 2.4 that was actually in Puerto Rico. In Magasariba, which is near Playa in the Guayanilla province or state. I don't know. I don't remember if they have provinces or state, but it's in the southwestern corner of Puerto Rico. Let's go to South America. Nothing from South America today. But we did have a 5.5, 5.1. Oh man, look at all of these on the East Pacific Rise. No actual islands there, but it is right on the undersea mount, like the ridge that you can see that is an undersea East Pacific Rise. It's like a underwater mountain chain that weirdly follows this weirdly orthogonal path, very like square wave shaped. They did get up to a 5.6, and these were all around 10 kilometers depth, all around the same time at 1:07 p.m. today. There was a 4.8 down here on the Antarctic and Australian plate boundary region. It's near the Balleny Islands. I think this is at the triple point conjunction between what is the Australian continent, the Antarctic continent, and the continent that we discussed yesterday that might be Zealandia. On this current plate map that I've got turned on Earthquake 3D, it's they've got the Pacific Ocean as just one big continent, but I don't think that's actually what's happening there geologically. So we had quite a bit of activity spreading throughout the world today when it came to our earthquakes. Let's go now to check out our volcanoes. And by that, I mean, I'm going to switch us over to looking at the volcanoes. Let me close out of all these locations I looked at. Okay. Volcanic activity. 37 erupting. That means nobody has stopped or started since our last update. Mount Ibeco on Paramushir Island has erupted again. It was already in active eruption, but it had a new eruption. Samiru eruption last reported at 143Z. Ducono, Santiaguito, Nevado de Ruiz, and Reventador, all looking at new volcanic ash emissions or continue explosive activity. Let's look at the roundup for the 8th. Had some imagery of some of those that I just mentioned. nothing too earth-shaking. Let's go. I mean, we're still in an eruption phase in Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland. So that's pretty fun. We've got 37 volcanoes erupting around the world. There's some active wildfires in the west that are mostly contained. But what is our news today other than the weather itself? We are looking at the weather itself right now. And let me go to, I want to put on a corner map that looks, oh, that's where my wildfire link went. I need to clean up some of my links. Hello to whoever just logged in. Glad to see you. We are looking at radar Omega. So we've got this low pressure system in the Texas-Louisiana border region that's feeding a warm front that is siphoning some warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico region and also kind of across the mountains of Mexico into the Gulf states, that is feeding into the circulation that's taking place between the stationary front and the trough formed by this low pressure system up here. The circulation is centered up here near between Winnipeg and Grand Forks. The cold front is on the backside all the way up here in Montana. That is currently under a blizzard watch or warning. Areas of a mesoscale discussion has been issued concerning blizzard activity. So it's turning into, the rainfall there is turning from wintry mix to actual snow. And we're also looking at winds between 30 and 35 miles per hour with gusts of up to 40 to 45 miles per hour, moderate snowfall rates of 0.25 to a half an inch per hour. Temps in the low 30s. That results in sporadic/transient blizzard conditions with more significant widespread visibility reductions, likely where gusts exceed 40 miles per hour. Early indications of this trend have already been noted across northeast Montana, where periodic visibility reductions down to half mile have been coincident with gusts over 40 miles per hour. Such conditions should become more common across eastern Montana, far west North Dakota, as the surface freezing line pushes south and supports snow as the primary precipitation type. Recent HRRR solutions suggest sporadic blizzard conditions will begin to impact the I-94 corridor as early as 5 to 6 UTC. Okay, and that was by Meteorologist Moore out of their local field office. So we've got the big spin all the way up here that is dragging in the cold front that is sucking that polar air down from Canada into our northern plains states. Our central low pressure local low that is kind of linking this in one big story. This is the character that links the two characters of the blizzard up here and the Gulf moisture down here. The circulation that's over Minnesota, southeastern Minnesota right now is linking this warm front. Oh, and they have just updated the frontal analysis on this map so that you can see the stationary front is what's on the backside of the most southern low center, dragging moisture along the Texas coast and into the Mississippi River region. The warm front is what's scooping this up into an area that counts as a new warm front sector for the mid-level rotation. And the cold front associated with that mid-level mid latitude rotation is being fed by a cold front all the way from Canada. So we're getting one big machine here. I think this is trying to form itself up into one big spiral. Currently, there's a center of circulation here near St. Louis, kind of. Actually, it moved from St. Louis to over Indianapolis right now. You can see kind of that. It would be a hook echo if we were looking like at a really at a smaller scale. We'd be looking at it like it was a tornado. But then you can see the winds from what is being scooped up here. This is a roll cloud that's showing where our cold front is moving. That should show where we've got like a big mass kind of creating a bulge ahead of the cold front there. And along the trough line, we are seeing that that's where the vorticity is getting maximized and contributing to the genesis, the creation of all these storming conditions. So we're not just scooping in warm, moist air. It's the combination of scooping in the warm, moist air and giving it a new warm front to be pushing into that's combining with the backside of a blizzard creating cold front feeding the mid-range cold front. The low that is centered over Minneapolis area is the one that's uniting the blizzard with these southeastern rain shower storms. So if this could link up into one giant rotation, it would be a pretty bad storm. Currently, they're not organizing. They're not quite synced up. The waveforms are not quite synced up in order to have a central low pressure region that everything's spinning around. But the waves are moving into, like the peaks of the waves are moving into alignment so that these might kind of link up and become one giant storm. I'm going to take a look at let's go to look at some of our models here. Looking at some of our weather models will help us see. Oh, that's not even what I wanted to go to. That's going to help us see some of the upper long range patterns that I'm talking about here. Okay. Okay. This should be smaller. I can talk about that and still keep that there. Okay. So current Atlantic Pacific satellite view. Let's look at satellite imagery first. No, that's not the one I want. Forecast models. Let's look at GFS and see which product do we want to see. Let's look at our upper dynamics and see divergence, Q function. This one is hard for me to explain because it's a product I don't understand as thoroughly as I understand other products. It's kind of a intuitive understanding right now for me, showing that I am correct that these areas have the potential to, like, their vorticity is linked. The orange is their vorticity. And the pink and green blobs, if you will, show the gradient.q function for the 200 to 400 millibar level. And the blue lines show the wave function. These are all things that I learned in the very last few weeks of my senior level atmospheric science class. So I can't really explain them that well, because to be able to understand it is one thing, but to be able to explain it is, you have to know it really, really well to be able to explain it. But I'm just going to click through here and take a look at it to give me an idea of, okay, what products I want to look at actually. Let's take a look at our simulated satellite. So as we, okay, forecast hour 1 for 7 for 7Z on Monday, December 9th. That's around where we are now-ish. And that's panning out. Looks like this does want to, it almost wants to link up here, this part to this part, but it's just not quite lined up correctly. I mean, it might swirl into, let me look at to PVU pressure and wind. This is where I like to see things, what I like to look at to see things linking up in the upper atmosphere in the stratospheric mixing. This shows potential vorticity units, like the pressure level where we reached to potential vorticity units. I'm not going to explain that one either, but look at me just saying words. I just know the words. Potential means, well, that's not even simple to explain either. Vorticity is spinniness, and units is a unit. Potential vorticity units means the absolute amount of spinniness that could possibly be extracted from this air parcel. And the pressure level is where we got that much potential spinniness extracted from the air parcel. When the PVU is higher up in the atmosphere, that means you had to go higher to get that much spinniness. And where it's lower in the atmosphere, you didn't have to go as high to, or no, strike that, reverse it. Where the PVU is at a higher hectopascal level, that means you didn't have to go as high in the atmosphere to get that much potential vorticity extracted from it. Where it's at a lower pressure level, that means you had to go way higher in the atmosphere to get that much vorticity out of the thing. So where you see these blue and green and up kind of shades of PVU pressure level, that means that there's a lot of spinniness, which is one thing that contributes to a storm happening. You could get a lot more spinniness out of that air mass. And when you look at the spinninesses linking up, areas that have a continuous value or pressure level of the same spinninesses, air can move along those contour lines pretty well. It would be better if I could show you this in 3D, because that can show you like rising and sinking motion as well, but I don't have that called up right now. I'm pretty sure it's on College of DuPage's website, but I don't use that website very much. So what we are clicking through and seeing right now is that this is analysis. For this product on GFS, they do go back more. Analysis, we saw what happened over the weekend, Friday. This is Saturday. And now we are looking into Sunday. Today, what happened through the day. And you see a lot of weird mixing. This looks very odd. This is the lobe right here that got kind of pinched off. It's not a cutoff low per se, but it has the look on this particular product of a cutoff low. It's not the right shape. It's not the right tilt. It's just kind of an orphaned pocket of high vorticity. And that is what I'm looking for to link up with the vorticity up here that's causing the blizzard. And it looks like it's definitely dragging high variability in PVU into the area. Oh, I didn't mean to request a sounding. But is this going to link up? It looks like it's kind of getting absorbed and eaten up into right ahead of this trough. So at 12Z on Monday is when I think this union of, I think it looks like this union of potential vorticity unit pressure levels is going to link up. I think that's probably when the warm front and the cold front are going to meet up with the warm and cold front, uniting them geographically in the center. And that'll probably push it up here to the Great Lakes region. Fortunately, doesn't look like the winds are going down too far, but buddy, we are getting a big kink in that trough. You don't want a negative tilt. The positive tilt is a little bit better than the negative tilt, but once it gets vertical like this, oh geez, Wednesday, oh man, Wednesday. Whew. So this is supposed to be a day when it's going to be really cold anyway. Like this is going to bring a major drop in temperatures to much of the mid-Atlantic and southeast regions. But look at all of that vorticity. Holy shit, that looks nasty. And then now we get the negative tilt. This isn't necessarily a trough. This is in the PVU, so it's not really a tilt in vorticity. It's a tilt in potential vorticity, but I think it still should count as isolating really high levels of vorticity. I think this is going to be, by the end of this week, by Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we're going to have some nasty weather going on. We've already had some pretty bad winter weather in the Great Lakes region in the Northeast, but look at this curl. It's already spitting out a 970 millibar low. That's huge. That looks nasty. I don't like where that's going. Our weather currently that's happening looks bad, but what looks like it's about to swoop up is also looking really bad. So yeah, guys, by the end of the week, we're looking at some really nasty weather no matter where you are, really high winds no matter where you are. That just looks terrible. So I think bottom line, what I was bringing all of this up to talk about was, I think the union of, let me resize this correctly. The reunion of this portion of the low system and this portion of the low system that union is going to take place somewhere overnight tonight into Monday morning. And then that won't be as bad as what happens in its wake, which will be the big swooping in of polar air, basically, in the wake of this. It's like this was just not quite timed right to be a big deal. It was two waves hitting in succession real quick, like boom, 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 boom. This is like a like a flam or a paired, like a, if you're playing the drums, flam is like when you do, instead of the waveforms are just like hitting boom instead of boom. This happening first is going to set up what weather comes in the wake of it as being timed perfectly to bring the Canadian air and the Mexican air into one great North American cyclone right over the United States by the end of the week. I know I said I'm not a forecaster when I started this this show, but I do sometimes like to talk about what's coming up, especially if it's going to be like dangerous. I think this is going to be some nasty winter weather, and not just nasty, but like potentially dangerous winter weather by the end of the week. What's already happening today, though, is let me go. Let's look at our observations. What's currently happening is blizzard conditions in eastern Montana and some pretty decent precipitation stretching from New Orleans to Indianapolis. Just a whole big, if it were hotter right now, this would look like a nasty, severe weather system. But since we don't have quite as much available energy in the form of heat energy in the atmosphere, this won't be able to set off the necessary chain of events, like the chain reactions that would convect this into a huge, scary, electrically active storm. This is currently just a real doozy of a nasty winter weather or winter rainstorm. And it's not really in winter state either, because looking at the winter weather, we're nowhere close to being in winter weather conditions or snow conditions with this rain mass. The winter weather is back here where the blizzard is, and they only barely just crossed into blizzard territory from having been a wintry mix before. This is like rain, a cold, nasty 40 degrees type of gross rain. Okay, let's look at our observed precipitation. 24-hour observed precipitation. We got a lot in up here in Washington, actually. Decent amount of precipitation in the far northern Lake Superior and Lake Inferior. Really on the Canadian border of the Great Lakes. The Canadian side of the lakes got the precipitation, as well as upstate New York and most of Texas. When we look at our 72-hour analysis, it's pretty much the same story. But in a week analysis, we saw that there was much more northeastern precipitation. That story is all going to change very shortly as all of this precipitation starts to move through the mid-Atlantic. Our temperatures didn't look that bad, but you can definitely see the growing gradient and wave form, like the crashing ocean wave shape. I gotta figure out a word for that. Our temperature change. We actually had a huge warm up in the south today. And by huge warm up, I mean, instead of it being like 19 degrees, it's like 40 degrees, which is going from freezing to not freezing, but it's still cold. It's still seasonal weather. Yeah. Things move along the surface of Theta E, so it might make it easier to make a connection between these two areas right now. Okay. That is what's going on there. Let's take a brief look at null Earth to see what our weather looks like globally. And you can see the cold air mass that circulates the North Pole is polar vortex is really not strong. It's kind of more of an abstract art kind of feeling. We've got rather than a circle with a few spirals coming off, we've got more like a wave number of 2. There should be a loop around the North Pole where you can see clear waves up and down, peaks and troughs around it. But we've more so got this lobe of cold air that stretches down onto the cold land masses of like Russia and Canada and Greenland, and partially the Nordic states. But like even the Northern Sea is not holding on to cold air the way it should be. Really, anywhere these air masses go over water, they're warming up really rapidly, which is not a shock when you consider how high the sea surface temperatures are. But it doesn't look healthy. It's not a very healthy polar vortex, which is why we're getting so many infusions of this cold air really loosely just dangling down into the United States, causing all this crazy winter weather. How is winter weather a result of climate change? Well, this is seasonable weather for the areas, but it is unseasonably warm on either side of the continent, over the ocean, over the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. So it's weird to have such warm water temperatures and still be seeing this much snow activity. It may not even be enough snow activity for some people who are used to a lot of snow. But when you consider that this is all the snow that should be happening up at the North Pole, then it feels a little bit more climate changey. Got some nasty, really tight spirals happening up near like Newfoundland in Canada, as we go into that really weird stretched out low that was over Europe. It seems like even you have to go to the higher elevations to get freezing temperatures in Europe right now, which is weird because it's December. They're trying to squeeze this into more of a high pressure rotation. Let's look at our mean sea level pressure. Yeah, this is now firmly a high that's set in. They had Storm Dara here in the UK and Ireland over the weekend, and that is now like firmly set up over Italy. Oh, that's not where I wanted to click. Yeah, winds aren't as scary strong as they were. But yeah, you can see the blizzard winds up here being like kind of the strongest in the United States right now, or in that Montana blizzard region. This is the region where we saw all that earthquake activity right earlier, Adak, Alaska. Let's see what the pressure looks like. Yeah, really low pressure moving through that area. I wonder if that coincides with when the low pressure, I wonder if the low pressure system was over Adak, Alaska. Yeah, I mean, it was in pretty close proximity. It's like it had just moved over that area when these swarm of sixes came about. Yeah, so this was scooching out of the way. I think this is the low pressure system that is about to cause havoc as the next system that comes into our area. Like what low are we looking at here? Looking at 957 hectopascals. That's terrible. Terrible news, because the blizzard is only at 1,003 hectopascals. So if this thing were to lobe down into North America, that would be really bad. Actually looks like that is going to stay the Aleutian low. That's going to remain in place, but maybe this it will swirl this other one into our region. Let's look. Next day, next day, next day. I'm looking at the 13th and 14th as the day. Yeah. 13th and 14th, that's when part of the low pressure that gets spun out by the Aleutian low is coming into the United States. Okay. Well, looking nasty for the weekend. Let's see. Let's go back to now. Got low pressure over much of the Oceania and Australia areas, low pressure over Italy, and of course, this big low that we've got going on sweeping through the United States. The pressure isn't too low where we're having all this rain here, but there's a lot of convergence there that is contributing to all the moisture, all the rain happening right there. Some pretty high precipitable water for how cold it is as well. Now, I have talked way longer than I usually talk about the weather, about the atmospheric weather. Let's go now to what's next. The Schumann resonances. Oh, I forgot. What's going on in Tom's Gresha? Not much. Three-hour precipitation accumulation, not much in Russia. So let's see what the Schumann resonances look like. Okay. The 8th did have a continuation of this like weird high activity, but it looks like it's tapering off. Now that leads me to our next potential charging up of the bands around the Earth situation that we have. Let's go to our solar weather. And you can see we had a coronal mass ejection that had a partial halo with it. That is associated with the X 2.2 flare that happened. Didn't I just say yesterday that we were going to have an increased chance of X class flares now that our M flares seem to be increasing again? Well, here we go. 3912 did produce an X class solar flare today. See, yesterday I said, looks like this M and this M are in an increasing fashion. Seems like we should be getting an X flare. Yes. X 2.29, Sunday, December 8th at 9 UTC. We also had an M flare happen around 1610 UTC. That was an M 1.54. So 72-hour max, we had an X 2.29. When is that going to get to us? Probably in a few days. Let's look at, do WSA and Enlil have a prediction for that yet? Nope. Not showing when that might get to us, but we are experiencing increased plasma density in this Parker spiral right there. Oh, this one does show the X flare as a glancing blow. It shows really hitting Mercury. Is that Mercury or Lucy? I guess that's, yeah. Shows this clipping Mercury a lot harder than Earth, but possibly when we're looking in the It looks like it'll affect just north of us or just west of us. This is the one from the side. Yeah. I mean, it'll get absorbed into this stronger Parker spiral. So that's exciting. That's exciting. Current data suggests Yellowknife, Nunavut, is that the province that's in? Would be the one to look at for aurora. This is what our sun looks like. I wish we had SDO imagery to show for the X flare that just happened out of here, but we're going to have to wait for it to show up on SOHO imagery. That is the area where there was a big X flare from. And this doesn't look calm either. I bet that if this area gave a decent solar flare, that there could be the potential to loosen up or launch these filaments right here. So that's exciting. This is the filament band I'm talking about possibly getting dislodged. It's a very cool shape on here. I don't know what it reminds me of, but it's a big C shape. I don't know. Let's see what SOHO imagery goes up to right now. You can see some partial halo probably going to be hitting us now. Do we have it? There it is. That's the X flare. So not a huge increase in solar protons, but direction of the interplanetary magnetic field is slightly south. Yeah. Oh, this has a new story, SDO outage. Okay. As a lot of you noticed, there's been issues. Cooling water line burst in the SDO. Okay. So that's what happened. Oh, here's a, it's Sunday and the sun is up today with a banger. An unexpected X 2.2. Well, it wasn't that unexpected. I said we might have X's soon. Roll that back. Roll the tape where I said yesterday that we were probably going to get an increase in solar flare activity soon. Let's see. SDO outage. Cooling water line burst in the Stanford building. In the Stanford building housing the SDO Joint Science Operations Center, which provides the real-time SDO imagery. So this isn't something that happened to a satellite. This is something that happened here on Earth in Stanford. The cooling water line burst. The Joint Science Operations Center reports that the damage is extensive and services will not resume until 2025. Holy shit, that sucks. That's tragic. What do you mean a cooling water line just burst? I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. I mean, I buy it. I buy that that's what the damage is, but like just randomly cooling water line burst, that's fine. Right at solar maximum. Can't have people noticing stuff. Okay. It peaked at 9:06 UTC and was impulsive. It did produce a minor coronal mass ejection, but it is heading west and thus not aimed at our planet. Womp womp. So for all of you wanting an X flare to hit us, no such luck. Let's look now at our planetary weather. Planetary weather, we've got the moon in Pisces at 25 degrees, conjunct Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees, or applying to the conjunction at least. That is making a sextile to Uranus retrograde in Taurus, which is making a trine to Pluto and Venus in early Aquarius, kind of late Capricorn orb area. We also just had yesterday the sun exactly opposite Jupiter. Now the sun is separating from that opposition. Mercury is also separating from its opposition with Jupiter. So they both conjoined opposite Jupiter and are now going their separate ways, both separating in a different way. We've got Mars in Leo retrograde at 6 degrees. That is opposing Venus and Pluto. I don't like to think of this as Mars and Pluto ganging up on Venus. I think of this as Venus actually emboldening and propping up the benefic side of Pluto in Aquarius, opposing Mars in Leo, like the collective liberation and potential beauty aspects of the revolution being ushered in by Pluto and Aquarius is like the aesthetics are good, the optics are good of it right now due to this healing touch, this little bit of makeup that Venus is putting onto Pluto right now. And that is empowering Pluto and Aquarius to be opposed by this Mars in retrograde. I think Mars is kind of losing right now. The figurehead, the demagogue, the state actor, the one guy in charge, great man theory of power kind of thing is being opposed by the people. The mesh framework of all of our minds working together, the internet of brains, the consolidation of class consciousness that's currently happening. Everything that's going on in Syria right now reflects what happened in Afghanistan in the 1980s. And back then, we didn't have the technology to hold our leaders accountable for the way that their meddling in one decade results in backlash of violence a decade or two later. We're now in a time where information is more readily accessible and history is more readily accessible to everyone through the internet and through AI summaries of the information available on the internet. We just came out of a time of great power for Capricorn things, which wasn't awesome when it came to the economy and the oppression of people, but it was pretty awesome when it came to documentation of history and the digitization of different aspects of power struggles and people being able to access history and like notice long-term trends in history. I think that this is like very much a class consciousness feeling transit. I think that Venus is also putting a pretty face on this, where the claims adjuster, as people are calling him, is like being heralded as somebody with great optics, hilarious joke writing skills, and in fact, very hot. So that's raising some people's awareness of class struggle. It's also really consolidating who the viewers, the masses, the crowds are versus the people getting rich off of their concentrated attention, which is power. Power to direct the minds of an audience is also a type of power that mimics state power. Like, for example, Ben Shapiro's audience turning on him in the comments when he tried to make the assassination a left versus right issue versus a lower class versus ruling class issue. I think that the Aquarius here is the working class, the collective, the masses, and this Mars and Leo is who has the war power, the martial power right now, but the power is shifting to the masses. Back when Pluto was in Leo, power really truly was consolidated in the hands of the great men of history. But now that we are in the opposite side of things, power truly is, I mean, power really always was in the hands of the masses. It's just that the consciousness of that power, we weren't able to tap into that because we truly believed that power was in the hands of our leaders. Now we are all waking up to the Pluto and Aquarius revolutionary idea that power is in the hands of the people who make the world what it is. Everybody who creates reality through their labor, through their dreaming, through their continued survival in a world that wants them to not survive. Everybody who continues to bravely be themselves in a world where it is monetarily rewarded to be a consumer unit that's easily predictable. Everybody who continues to be an individual is creating, ironically, a collective of individuals, a collective of people who cannot be ruled by the demagogue figurehead. That Pluto in Leo was one personality getting the autonomy of the masses, and this is now the autonomy of the masses gaining and realizing its personality as a unit. The consolidation of class consciousness. It's something that has been written about for the last few hundred years and theorized by a lot of thinkers, but Marx put it pretty well and put it well to a lot of people. And it's happening. It's all happening. I know Austin Coppock was pretty negative about this transit on the astrology podcast this month, but I think that he was biased by his personal chart having Venus at 2 degrees of Aquarius. I think that this actually is a fantastic transit, and Venus should be seen as more empowered than Mars or Pluto in this situation. Pluto just got into this sign. Pluto just started doing things in Aquarius way rather than a Capricorn way. Everything's very new for Pluto. And Pluto just got overtaken by Venus, faster moving and everything. And Pluto has been dealing with this rough opposition to Mars and Leo for a while. They've been in kind of a power struggle of who's going to be in charge, the power of the people or the power to enact war on behalf of the people. This is the teeter-totter power struggle these two have been in for a while. And I think that Pluto and Mars are so focused on fighting each other that they haven't noticed that Venus has come in to clean up the mess of Pluto through Capricorn and put on a new fresh coat of paint for Pluto in Aquarius. I wouldn't be surprised to see more AI art getting out there now, some progress in AI art, doing something to oppose Mars and Leo. Yeah, I've been on this tangent for a while, so I'm going to switch gears. That's I think all that's standing out to me right now. It's a moon day and a moon hour. let's go to, my hair part is on the other side now. I need to cut my bangs again. These are so long that they're not even bangs. Not used to that. I'm used to having some fluffy hair in my face or something. Can't even. Okay. Let's go look at, can Pluto be counted now classified as a dwarf planet? Yes, because we do not in astrology bring back the dial. I wasn't tuned in. You'll just have to watch the recap on YouTube. I just said a lot of stuff. This has already been a very long episode. I mean, I can bring it back. The dial, this is the planetary weather. This is our transitions of, this is the daily where the planets are in the sky according to an astrological interpretation. Doesn't mean this is in front of the actual Sagittarius star constellation. This is in the modern astrology tropical tradition, as opposed to sidereal, which would be actually where the stars and planets are in alignment with the signs moving through the heavens as they do in the real life galaxy. Because our relationship to where the I will let me link you to where my YouTube is real quick. Hold on. Yeah, I will make sure everything is on the Today's Weather Tonight playlist, but you can always go to past live streams to check my most recent live stream and my analysis of it. Okay. That is, yeah, that's my, my summary of the planetary weather for today. I think that Pluto and Venus in Aquarius are doing a nicer job opposing Mars in Leo than people are giving her credit for. It's also a moon in Pisces day, and it's a moon day and a moon hour, and this happens to be the degree of Pisces where my moon is. So I'm just kind of feeling like a channel of information right now. And on that note, as a channel, I want to do some vibe readings. This is the vibe weather. So on this show, we go through all levels of weather. We start with volcanoes, then we go to the tectonic plates and the earthquakes. Then we go to what's happening with the atmospheric weather. Then we go to what's happening with the Schumann resonances and the magnetosphere. Then we go to what's happening with the solar weather and the interplanetary magnetic field. Then we go to what's happening with the planetary weather. And then the last layer we go to is we go to the vibe weather, the archetypal weather, the weather that's happening on dimensions that are beyond and below what's happening in 3 dimensions that we measure. We just measured 3 dimensions, like the weather in 3 dimensions for all of this stuff. Everything beyond the astrology is going into beyond the physical realm. So that is also the weather that does kind of precipitate downwards through the planetary weather. So it's good to get a little check on that too. I'm going to start. I started the broadcast with the singing bowl. Thank you for being here, by the way. I'm going to start the broadcast with this. I'm going to play this again just to make sure that we have compassion in our hearts, because this is the bowl that was made with the blessing of ultimate loving kindness and compassion by the monks who made it. And I got to meet them, and they were very nice. Compassion includes self-compassion, as well as understanding that everybody else is who they are and they need to be who they are and not who you are or who you want them to be. Weird flashing of light. Interesting. Did y'all notice that like the LED lights started to like pulse when I was doing that? That's interesting. Okay. Let's see. I've been starting with a different deck than I usually start with lately because I like it. I like setting the tone with this deck because it's an affirmations like deck. It's also got selenite as its little rock friend. I always think that cards should have a rock friend. I think plants should have a rock friend. They want to have a little pet rock, just like you do. Let's see. What is the vibrational weather for the vibes beyond the physical, beyond like and below and beneath and within everything that we just talked about on the show? Like, what is today's vibe weather? I see a card that keeps coming out. I don't know if it's going to pop out though. Nobody wants to jump out today. This one. There is nothing for me to guard against. It's got a little birdie inside a tree. It says, there's nothing for me to guard against. You exist in a place of absolute well-being. Tell yourself that again and again. Know it. Be the evidence of it to give others reason to believe that all can be well. Well, that's a very hopeful card. I really like that. Many might say that it is naive to believe that there's nothing for you to guard against. But if you take naivete beyond innocence and to the realm of divine nihilism, then you realize that when you don't feel threatened by even the possibility of your own death, then there truly is nothing for you to guard against. You are simply on this ride for as long as you're going to be. And that's how long you're supposed to be here. Even the ultimate thing that you're supposed to guard against is not that much of a threat when you remember the larger spiritual context that you exist within. Oh, I just lost viewers because I said you shouldn't even guard against your own death. Whoops. Oh, well. Controversial statement. Don't be afraid. Here's the next card. Let's go for a little bit of a tarot interpretation, the more traditional cartomancy method. Who goes with that? Let me read the inscription again. You exist in a place of absolute well-being. Tell yourself that again and again. Know it. Be the evidence of it to give others the reason to believe that all can be well. So I didn't even dwell on that interpretation of it very much. Everything really, truly is well when you resonate that into reality. And you can make things well by being well. This just popped out. 5 of Wands. We're in the fight now. We are now truly in the fight. It is December of 2024, and the 5 of Wands has popped out. This is it, guys. This is fighting time. This is when the rubber meets the road. This is when the thing we've been waiting for all year happens. This is, well, it doesn't happen like right now, but like this is the larger grand scheme of things moment when 5 of Wands energy is coming up. 5 is the number of kind of transformational, beyond the 4s. It's the 5 dimensions. It's the creativity. It's the rebirth process, but not even rebirth. It's the Venus associated. Oh my God, I didn't even know that was an option. I was fighting between these 2 options the whole time. And then there was a 5th option. I didn't even realize there would be 3 or 4, let alone 5. This is beyond a square into a pentagram. This is like, it's so much harder to describe 5 than any other number, which is wild. 5 is the wild card, and Wands is the fire 5 fire card. 5 of Wands is 5 and fire. This is actually the middle decan of Leo is associated with this card. So we won't get to the middle decan of Leo Mars transit. We won't get to the 5 of Wands decan of Leo transit until we are done with this Mars retrograde through Leo into Cancer and back out of Cancer into Leo again. We're not going to get to the real fight yet, but this is the pre-fight. This is the pre-game fight. This is like quarter 1 of the game. The game has actually begun now, though. We have had kickoff. It's happening. There's nothing for you to guard against, but there is a scrappy battle going on, and you have nothing to brace yourself against. You can exist in a state of well-being and finesse and actual grace through a battle. But that's kind of what a battle is both the external battle and the internal battle of finding your zen, your flow state in the battle time. This is no longer practice time. We are actually doing this for real now. Practice time was the last 4 years. This is actually, we're doing the thing now time. Okay, let's get a little bit of a hot take from the liminal space. This is the one that I do with Jupiter feeling rock. Postcards from the liminal space. Let's see. Do a little shuffle on this. I just glanced at my computer and it said rainy days ahead, which literally is true and I think figuratively. There's nothing to be too scared of. There's nothing for you to guard against, but the battle is finding your well-being within the storm. The way that you fight the battle instead of with like literal sticks and swords is that we are finding our well-being amidst the crisis of the collapse of the world. That's also, I just want to point out the 5 of Wands is not a sword fight. It's not a sword battle. It may seem a little bit like people play fighting, like children play fighting, like this is our joke, haha, we're doing a revolution, but like sarcastically, we don't actually mean it. But this actually does prepare you for when you're going to be fighting with swords. Fighting with real swords is the suit of swords is a somber suit. Suit of wands is kind of fun and boisterous and chaotic, but a little bit. This is our youth of fighting. This is our childhood nights, battles, and just the chaos of getting to know your body in space and how you move with a weapon and understanding that. Let's see. Liminal space. What do you have to say about this? It is the 5 of Wands upright out, and there is nothing for me to guard against. That is one that said, there's nothing for me to guard against. I exist in a state of well-being at all times. And I have just but to resonate that to other people to help them be in a state of well-being as well. What do you want to say with that? Oh, you want to say a lot? Okay, I'll take it. Okay, so very, very, very specific. 3 cards popped out. I usually don't take that many cards from each deck, but if they pop out, I'll take them. We got these 3 cards. The primary problem with language is its magic, and that is a possessive. It is magic. The primary problem with language is its magic. Also got magic is either everything or it is nothing. Again, magic is either everything or it's nothing. And we got the one that says perception is reality. Don't forget that. So while I am here being a resonator to you, I'm going to say that magic is everything. It's not nothing. Unless you worship the nothing and love it, then it's nothing. But magic is everything. It's either everything or nothing, a 1 or a 0. Let's interpret some of these, shall we? The primary problem with language is its magic. Which is it under P for primary? The primary problem with language is its magic. Just as a shaman will insist there is a difference between smoking a cigarette and praying with tobacco, there is a distinction between speaking and the casting of language as a tool, and it is the most prolific of all our tools. A person can be forever moved by a song, a book, an insult, an argument. Nothing can forever be taken back, just as energy cannot be destroyed. Nothing can ever be truly taken back, just as energy cannot be destroyed. Words are spells. That's why it's called spelling. It is kind of problematic that the way we communicate with each other is casting a spell of reality onto each other every time that we speak. But I'm going to use that as an advantage because I'm going to tell you that magic is either everything or it's nothing. No mistakes were made, no wrong turns taken, but you did miscalculate. You are not out of time. The inner commentator does not have access to the greater picture. In fact, it will lead you to self-sabotage in this case. You are where you are supposed to be, and even this is magic. So if your inner commentator or inner saboteur is telling you that magic must not be real because I would have had different results by now if it were, that's wrong. You are exactly where you need to be, and your magic did lead you here already. I am exactly where I need to be. You two current viewers are exactly where you need to be. This is all that we need to be. This is the only people that need to be talking right now. I'm grateful for everyone who gets to be part of this discussion live. And, you know, there are outside influences in the world that try to tell me that I'm supposed to be turning this passion, this channel of mine, into something commodifiable, something that could make money for Google, something that could get rent into the pocket of a landlord. But there is no point in chasing that outcome, because that's not the outcome I want out of this. I don't want to be making money for those people that do nothing. I want to create the value of conversation and sharing space to talk about the way that vibes interact with each other with you. That's what I want this for. That's what I'm holding space here for. And the magic is that it's magical that I've been able to produce hundreds of hours of content and it not go viral and get commodified. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome that we have this nice, special, safe little place to talk about like actual ideas that we really believe and not be at risk of, attack by anyone who would want to suppress free thought or the free exchange of ideas or the communication of scientists among each other. Perception is reality. Don't forget that. Let's take a look at that one. Perception is reality. Don't forget that. The same story could be told 100 different ways, and you would do well to be skeptical of all versions, especially yours. The roots of the story stay universal truths for a while, or stay universal truths for all, while the remaining details are influenced by self-interest and open to interpretation. So, every single person who experiences something is 100% correct about the fact that they experienced it that way. Those ways of experiencing something are not always going to add up. In fact, they're always going to be slightly different. But that is the way that truth works. That's the way truth is created. We are not incorrect because we're a different leg of the pyramid than someone else. If we were legs holding up a table, we wouldn't be less part of the table because we were not the leg on the opposite side. Our table leg is part of the table. That table leg is part of the table, and they are not the same thing. They are not experiencing the same thing, but they are both true, and they are both integral parts of the whole. Our perception is our reality, and that also means that if you can change your perception, you can change your reality. And the average of our perceptions is the average of our consensus reality. So you have agency in the consensus of reality when you change your perception. It's just that the hardest thing possible to change is your perception. But when you learn how to do that, you have the power to change anything. So, I love that lesson here. Our battle here is, I love the union of all these cards. Our battle truly is being fought on the mental, spiritual, emotional plane. The way that we change our perception of reality to empower us more is the way that reality will be echoing that self-empowerment on a grander scale. As you improve your life, so too will world politics improve. I know it sounds crazy, but it has been that way in my experience so far. As I sabotage myself, things get real bad out there. As I build up my survival, love, and spiritual development, things tend to get better for the masses. I also think things don't get wholly better or wholly worse, that we just progress and things get more, not better or worse. We just get volume turned up. So we're moving on with the story. Onward we go. All right. I love you guys so very much. Thank you for coming to another episode of Today's Weather Tonight. Please take care of yourselves and therefore each other. Because when you take care of yourself, you take care of the world. And I'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening. Bye.